President Biden will be making an announcement to the American people tomorrow. Also, what Chuck Schumer said about the stimulus package in a rare press briefing, and why Democrats are nervous now that the stimulus package is in the Senate. All of that plus more in this video. Let's get into this right away. But really fast before we do, thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here or if you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down below the video, as things are changing very rapidly right now, and I do hours and hours of research to boil it all down into these short videos to bring you the latest updates as they're being released to help you out in any way that I can throughout this very confusing and difficult time. So again, thank you so much for joining me. Subscribe down below and let's get into this right away. All right, so it has been announced that the president will be addressing American people tomorrow in a special announcement. What's the announcement going to be about? That's a good question. We don't really know. So usually before the president addresses the American people, usually there's a little bit of a briefing to let us know what it's actually going to be about. We do have a little bit of information, but for the most part, it's really tight-lipped about what they're actually going to be talking about and what he's going to be addressing the American people about in his announcement. So, seems a little bit suspicious to me, and I'm really curious to see what he's actually going to be talking about. But here's what we do know as far as what they've released to us, but this is just minimal. They haven't released a whole lot. Here's what they've said. He's going to be addressing the American people about the supply chain issues and about lowering prices. Lowering prices on what? Everything or one or two items? What are we talking about here? We don't know. That is what they have not revealed to us. So it seems a little bit weird to me because how is he going to lower prices like really quickly? Because here's the deal. With all the supply chain and inflation issues going on right now, to lower prices is going to take a very long time, right? It's not going to be something where you can just flip a switch and all of a sudden prices are going to drop dramatically overnight. It's not going to work that way. But it's going to take a very long time to bring prices back down to earth after launching to the moon. And realistically, over the next year or so, they're probably going to go from the moon to Mars. And we already know that. So it's going to be interesting to see what the president actually says in his announcements tomorrow. Let's cross our fingers that he wants to lower prices by actually sending out money to those lower income and fixed income Americans. It wouldn't technically be lowering prices, but ultimately it would give people more purchasing power to go out and buy the goods and services that you need and the necessities that everybody needs. But we'll have to see, as the president will be out with that announcement tomorrow. Don't worry, I'll watch it very closely and I'll bring you those updates as we get the announcements out of the president. All right, let's talk about what Chuck Schumer said about the stimulus package in a rare press briefing. Now, you may be wondering, why am I saying a rare press briefing when it comes to Chuck Schumer? He's out all the time talking to the press, right? Well, yes, he is, but it rarely happens on a Sunday, and it happened yesterday on a Sunday. So Chuck Schumer was out yesterday announcing now that this stimulus package is in the Senate right now, his plan is to get this thing fully passed by Christmas. So that leaves us about a month, a couple days more than a month from right now. But that's not the announcement he was making. We already knew that, right? We've known that for a couple days now, that Christmas is the deadline or the line in the sand in which Chuck Schumer has identified. However, he has indicated that they will be working in good faith with Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema in the Senate to come together to pass a robust and strong bill for the American people. Again, kind of interesting because we continue to hear this out of Chuck Schumer, this strong and robust bill, and we hear these comments out of Bernie Sanders as well, listening to the demands of the American people. Really? Are they though? You know what I mean? Like, yes, okay, they are addressing some of the issues of the American people, but at the most part, we continue to reach out to these guys and many other people throughout Congress saying, here's the demands of the American people. We need a survival check. So if they just so happen to be listening to the demands of the American people, maybe they would be hearing our voices as well. And maybe they have been, and maybe they've been considering things behind closed doors. We don't really know what is going on outside of the public view, right? There's a lot of discussions going on between everybody within the Democratic Party, but yet we don't hear a lot of what goes on behind closed doors, right? So we have no clue what they're doing in private or what they're talking about. But Seems kind of interesting, right? Although they do have this multi-trillion-dollar package, which is actually interesting because I just saw in a report shortly before I started recording this video that according to what they're looking at now, even though the package is just below $2 trillion, according to some of these tax provisions in there, if they're not actually added in, it could be ballooning up to $2.4 trillion the total price tag of the package. So as you can see, this package is still all over the place. We're seeing price tag numbers all over the place from 1.7 all the way up to $2.4 trillion. So that's a huge spread, right? About $700 billion is the spread there. So kind of interesting stuff. All right, when it comes down to Democrats being scared and nervous now that the stimulus package is in the Senate, here's what they're nervous about. The concessions that are going to be made and all of the amendments that will be made to the bill from the House version that has been sent over to the Senate. So remember, just a few days ago, the House passed the House version of this reconciliation bill. However, that's the House version. Now that it's in the Senate, it's likely going to be picking up some major amendments and some major changes to the bill. And that is what's making a lot of progressives in the House really nervous right now, because they know that they have moderates in the Senate and they need every single moderate and they need literally every single Democrat in the Senate to support this reconciliation bill in order to get it through. As a result, a lot of times typically what happens is in order to bring everybody on board that they need to get the necessary votes, they make concessions, right? So they bring in and they say, hey, Joe Manchin, what do we need to do to get your vote? And Joe Manchin will say something like he did in the American Rescue Plan, the last stimulus package. He said, we need to allow $10,200 of the first $10,200 of unemployment benefits to not be taxable or counted as income. That was one of the provisions that was picked up at the very last minute with the last stimulus package as it was in the Senate. So that's just one example. And that provision alone resulted in some massive tax refunds for a lot of people. Millions and millions of people got thousands of dollars back from money that they had already prepaid in taxes on their unemployment benefits. So I'm just using that as an example. Another example could be way back in the end of last year. Again, I've talked about this one many times now. Bernie Sanders, the last few minutes of the negotiations on the stimulus package, demanded a stimulus check and ultimately got it. Otherwise, he would have withheld his vote on that package late last year in December of 2020. So these are a few examples of concessions that could possibly be made once again, or many other concessions. And this is what's making progressives really nervous right now, because again, it's in the hands of Democrats in the Senate, and they know it's likely going to go through some major transformation before it potentially comes back to the House for another vote to get it passed before it actually goes to the president's desk. So, as you can see, it's a lot of back and forth right now. There's a lot of negotiations, but either way, they'll probably come together on this thing at some point within the next few weeks here. I mean, realistically, it could come over the next few days. It could come over the next week. It could be in the next 3 weeks. Honestly, we don't really know. All that we know is that it's in the Senate. They're currently working on it, and there will likely be some major changes to the package before it actually makes its way to the president's desk, right? So either way, don't worry. I'll continue watching that for you, and I'll bring you those updates as we get them. Also, just out this morning, the president has indicated he will be reappointing Jerome Powell as the chairman of the Federal Reserve once again. So his term was going to be ending early this coming year, this next year in 2022, and it was all up in the air. Will Jerome Powell be reappointed once again for another term, or will it be somebody else? Well, there's been a lot of back and forth and a lot of speculation who it's going to be, and literally just about an hour ago or so, before I started recording this video, the announcements were out, and President Biden has reappointed Jerome Powell as the chairman of the Federal Reserve. So I know you might not care about that, but this is actually a very, very powerful position for someone to be in. The chairman of the Federal Reserve is actually a very, very important role, and he's going to be the one overseeing everything going on as far as interest rates, money printing, the printing presses, all that stuff going on. So Janet Yellen did once hold that seat a couple years ago. So she was the chairman of the Federal Reserve, or I should say chairwoman of the Federal Reserve a couple years ago. But anyway, just to put that in perspective so you can kind of put a familiar name with a position that may not be so familiar after all. So anyway, some interesting things going on. Again, it's going to be another very busy day today. I have some more updates I want to bring you in future videos, but yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on out there. So I hope you're having a nice day so far. This is the latest update that I have for you as of right now this morning. I'll be back with you a little bit later with some more interesting information, with more interesting finds that I came across, and I want to share those with you in a different video. So again, I like to keep it short and sweet, as short as I can in my videos. I like to lay it all out. I like to talk fast, and I like to give you the information straight and sweet, as short as I possibly can, to help you out in any way that I possibly can. So thank you so much for watching this. I really do appreciate it. I have my eyes on everything. I'm watching everything closely, and I'll bring you all those announcements out of lawmakers, out of the president, and anything else that could potentially be announced. And I'll continue watching everything closely. So again, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe down below, share this video, or go back and check out some of the other 2,000 videos, or nearly 2,000 videos, right here on the channel. And I'll catch you again later in the next one. Stay